Welcome to Betrayal Narratives, where the truth doesn't knock, it slips in quietly, sits beside you, and waits for the moment you finally look it in the eye. My name is Danny, and if you had asked me a year ago what stability looked like, I would have pointed to my life without hesitation. Not because it was perfect, far from it, but because I believed in the foundation my wife and I had built. I believed in the rituals, the habits, the quiet mornings, the late-night conversations, and the promise that no matter how rough life became, we would face it together. And yet, it's strange how the smallest thing can wake you up to a reality you didn't want to see. It began on a Wednesday, a cold one, the kind where the wind stings your face and even the sun seems to give up halfway through its climb. I woke up earlier than usual, not because of an alarm, but because something felt off. I couldn't name if there was no voice in my head saying something slung. It was subtler, a heaviness in the air, like a storm that hadn't yet formed but was quietly gathering strength. I walked downstairs and found the kitchen empty. No sound of pans, no quiet humming from my wife, Lisa. She usually made coffee before heading to work. I didn't think much of it. People have off days. But while searching for my wallet buried somewhere between yesterday's mail and the grocery list, I still had Dane T fulfilled. Noticed her handbag sitting by the dining chair. And in that moment, for no reason I could justify, I opened it. I wasn't snooping, or at least that's what I told myself. I was just checking if my wallet had somehow slipped inside. Instead, something else caught my attention. A stack of receipts, a key card to a conference center I didn't recognize, and a set of items she'd never mentioned. Nothing scandalous by itself, but together, strange, out of pattern, out of place. I stared at them, trying to trace the timeline. Lisa had mentioned late nights recently, meetings, case preparations, strategy sessions with her team. She worked in corporate law, so demanding schedules weren't unusual. But these receipts didn't match those explanations. Wrong times, wrong places, wrong context. Still, I wasn't the type to jump to conclusions. Accusations born from assumptions only make enemies out of partners. So I placed everything back exactly where I found it and zipped the bag gently before heading out for the day. Yet the feeling didn't leave. It followed me like a shadow, quiet, patient, waiting. That night, everything felt scripted. Lisa came home a little later than usual, her hair pulled back in a slightly messy bun. Her blazer draped over one arm and an apologetic smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Tough day?" I asked. "You have no idea," she sighed. "We have a big case coming up. Richard wants us to prep at the Hartford Conference Center the next few days." Richard, her boss. The man who walked like every hallway was a runway. Smooth, polished, always 2 steps ahead of everyone else. I didn't dislike him, but I didn't trust him either. "Again?" I asked softly. She hesitated for half a breath, just long enough for someone paying attention to notice. "Yeah, lots to get through." A simple answer, too simple. We ate together, talked about small things, laughed. From the outside, nothing seemed unusual. But I found myself studying the details, the way she twirled her fork, the nervous tapping of her thumb, the way she kept glancing at her phone. I didn't mention the receipts, the strange schedule, the key card, not yet. That night, as she showered, I sat at the edge of the bed thinking about our early years. The version of us who stayed up all night planning a future. The version of her who used to call me from work because she just needed to hear my voice. The version of me who believed those moments were permanent. We had changed. Life changes people. But somewhere along the way, we stopped updating each other on who we were becoming. When she came out of the bathroom, towel wrapped around her, steam trailing behind her like a curtain, she smiled. "You're quiet tonight," she said. I forced a smile back, just tired. But what I wanted to say was, "I'm listening to the silence between your words and it's screaming at me." I wanted to ask her who she was when she wasn't with me. Who she was becoming when I wasn't looking. Did she mean them? Or was it just punctuation? A habit we'd both fallen into. My plan was simple, and in hindsight, maybe a little foolish. I was going to go to the Hartford Conference Center. Not to confront her, not to make a scene, just to see, to confirm her story, to give myself a reason to believe her again. So the drive was about 45 minutes. 45 minutes of replaying every conversation, every excuse, every late night from the past few months. I felt like I was piecing together a puzzle with half the pieces missing, trying to make an image appear out of nothing. When I arrived, the place was bustling with corporate types, all looking important and busy. I walked through the lobby, my heart pounding in my chest. I scanned the schedules on the digital directories, looking for her law firm, for her name, for Richard's name. Nothing. I checked every conference room, every breakout session. Her firm wasn't listed anywhere. It wasn't just a small detail that was off. The entire foundation of her story was missing. I felt a cold wave wash over me. She wasn't here. So where was she? I sat in my car in the parking lot for what felt like hours. The engine off, the silence deafening. The lie wasn't just a lie. It was a carefully constructed fiction, and I had been the unsuspecting audience. My mind raced. If she wasn't at the conference center, then where were those late nights really spent? What were the receipts for? Who was she with? Just as I was about to give up and drive home, my phone buzzed. It was a notification from our shared bank account. A charge, a hotel. The name of the hotel wasn't the Hartford Conference Center. It was a boutique hotel called the Willow Creek in about 20 miles in the opposite direction. It was known for being secluded, private, romantic. My hands started to shake. This was it. This was the moment of truth I had been dreading. I didn't think. I just drove. My mind was a blur of anger, betrayal, and a deep, soul-crushing sadness. All the what-ifs were gone, replaced by the grim certainty of what I was about to find. I pulled into the hotel parking lot and saw his car. Richard's car. A sleek, black luxury sedan that he was so proud of. It was parked right near the entrance. I walked into the lobby, my face a mask of stone. I didn't know what I was going to do or say. I just knew I couldn't live in the lie anymore. I approached the front desk. The clerk looked up, a polite smile on her face. Before I could even speak, the elevator doors opened. And there they were, Lisa and Richard. They weren't holding hands. They weren't kissing, but they didn't have to be. The way he stood close to her, the way she laughed at something he said, the comfortable, intimate energy between them, told the whole story. They saw me at the same time. Lisa's laugh died in her throat. Her face went pale. The smile vanished, replaced by sheer panic. Richard just looked at me, his expression unreadable, almost smug. He knew. He knew who I was. And in that moment, our world shattered. The quiet life, the comfortable habits. The foundation I thought was so strong, it all crumbled into dust right there. In the lobby of the Willow Creek Inn, all because of a single receipt in a handbag that woke me up from a dream. I didn't even know I was living. Just tired, I replied, only half a lie. The next morning, I took one precaution. Small GPS tag I normally use to track customer equipment. I placed it in her car, not to invade her privacy, but to ease my mind. I told myself that if everything was normal, I'd know, and the nagging in my chest would finally settle. But 3 days later, the alert came. Her car wasn't at the law office, or the courthouse, or even anywhere near the legal district. It was parked at the same conference center as the key card I'd found at noon, in the middle of the workday. I didn't panic. I didn't jump in my car shouting accusations. Just drove. When I got there, I parked across the lot behind a landscaping truck. From there, I had a clear view of the entrance. Minutes later, Lisa walked out wearing the dress I'd bought her for our anniversary, adjusting her hair, checking her appearance, laughing at something. And walking beside her too closely was Richard. They weren't doing anything overtly inappropriate, but they also weren't behaving like coworkers leaving a professional meeting. Their body language spoke in ways their words never would. My heart sank, but my mind stayed unusually calm. Clarity often feels like cold water. I took a few photos, nothing invasive, nothing compromising. It's just timestamps, location shots, proof of patterns forming. Over the next several days, I didn't confront her. Instead, I observed. Every Tuesday and Thursday, this same routine. Late-night meetings, unexpected workloads, client emergencies. But her car always ended up at the same place. A pattern is the closest thing to truth when someone refuses to speak it. One Thursday, I booked a room on the floor below hers not to spy on anything private or explicit. But because the walls in that conference center were thin enough that conversations drifted, and conversation was enough. Muffled voices filtered through the air vents, laughter, the sound of easy familiarity. And worst of all, my name spoken as if I were a background character in a story I didn't know was being told. Danny won't suspect anything I heard. Followed by laughter. Those words cut deeper than anything else. Not the meetings, not the secrecy, but the fact that she believed I was too blind to see her stepping away from the life we built. I left quietly that night, heart heavier than when I arrived. The unraveling began the following week. Lisa came home anxious, pale, uneasy. Something had happened, something she didn't explain fully. She mentioned a misunderstanding at the conference center, something that caused tension among colleagues. Nothing dangerous, just enough chaos to expose cracks. The next morning, whispers circulated around town. Small-town gossip moves like wildfire, uncontrolled, hungry, loud. People had seen her and Richard leaving together. Someone had asked questions at the office. Someone else had overheard fragments of conversations. One rumor turns into 5 and 5 into 50. Soon, even Lisa's best friend Jenny called asking if everything was okay. Lisa tried denying it, but her voice shook. She wasn't trained for this kind of lying. Later that night, her phone buzzed. Patterson Richard calling. Over and over. She silenced each call. But the next day, he did something unexpected. Called me. And the sound of panic in his voice said more than any confession ever could. He insisted they were just colleagues. He insisted everything was professional. He insisted on meeting me to settle any misunderstandings. His desperation was its own admission. Hours later, he drove to my house not angry but frightened. Not intimidating, just unraveling. His job, his marriage, his reputation, everything hung by a thread. He stood on my porch, hands trembling slightly, trying to persuade me that nothing happened. But his story had holes. Its explanations contradicted each other. And every attempt at justification only made him look guiltier. I didn't yell, I didn't lash out, I didn't accuse. I simply asked questions he couldn't answer. That alone was enough. The next few days felt surreal. Lisa avoided me not angrily, just carefully. As if every word she said was being measured. As if truth had become a minefield she didn't know how to walk through. But truth has a way of cornering you. One night she finally broke. She sat at the edge of our bed, shoulders slumped, hands trembling slightly. "We just got too close," she whispered. "It wasn't supposed to mean anything. Didn't know how to stop it. I didn't know how to tell you." I listened. Not because her explanation fixed anything, but because hearing the words mattered. She talked for nearly an hour about stress, about loneliness, about feeling unappreciated, about making one bad choice that spiraled into 5. I didn't interrupt. At the end, she looked at me with eyes full of regret. "I don't want to lose you," she said. The painful part wasn't hearing that she had betrayed my trust. It was realizing she told herself she wasn't hurting me by hiding it. Healing is never poetic. It's slow, messy, uneven, exhausting. Over the next month, we went through difficult conversations, counseling sessions, nights of silence, mornings of tension, afternoons of cautious reconnection. Some days felt like progress. Others felt like reopening old wounds. I didn't forgive her immediately. Forgiveness is not a switch. But I didn't walk away either, 'cause leaving is easy. Understanding is harder. We rebuilt slowly, like two people learning each other all over again, setting boundaries, setting expectations, setting truth as the only language allowed between us. And little by little, the storm calmed. Not erased, not forgotten, just survived. In the end, this wasn't a story about revenge. It was a story about confronting truths you don't want to see. A story about how trust can shatter quietly, and how healing, if chosen, requires brutal honesty from both sides. Today, things aren't perfect, but they're real. And sometimes real is enough. Because the strongest relationships aren't the ones that avoid storms, they're the ones willing to rebuild after them.